I like the shirt too.
Right, thank you. I actually went to the concert.
Really?
Yes.
Nice.
Like 2 years ago.
No, this wasn't a concert shirt.
You went to Target.
Yeah. No, this size, I am the target. Like, this is the center dot. Times are tough, okay? It's part-time work.
Wow. Okay.
They gave a severance package to the bullseye, the dog.
I'm unloading the meat. I'm loading the meat. I'm unloading the meat. I'm loading the meat. I'm unloading the meat. I'm loading the meat. I'm unloading the meat. I don't even know what it means, what it is, what it is, what it is, what it is, what it is. I'm unloading the meat. I'm loading the meat. I'm unloading the meat.
Welcome to Unloading Meat. Yes, I am Jared Ralphie Allen, not that Jared from Subway, even though I look like I wear the pants from the before pictures. My guest today came all the way from, what's it, OKC?
OKC.
OKC, man. I love it. Man, Bartlesville's getting some mileage up here. Give it up for the one, the only, Julie Drake.
Hello.
What's up, Julie? How are you?
Great, how are you?
Pretty good. Thank
Good.
you so much for coming all the way to Bartlesville.
Well, Bartlesville is my hometown. This is where I grew up.
Yeah, we gotta get that.
In fact, I
Murphy's.
just passed in front of Central Middle School, Earl Sears Park.
Yeah.
And Earl Sears is the principal who kicked me out of middle school.
Oh, damn, Earl. Damn.
Yes, damn Earl. Yeah. He was so tired of me that he said, you know what, I'm going to tell all your teachers to pass you and get you the hell out of here. And then I got his 6-week early summer vacation.
Nice.
So thank you, Earl.
Just go over to the park and just, like, I don't know, just take a shit. I don't know.
Appreciate you,
Yeah.
Earl.
Yeah, thanks, Earl.
Yeah.
His name was Earl.
His name was Earl Sears.
Yeah.
Yes, he was my principal. Yeah.
Yeah, karma.
Yes.
Something Jason Lee with Scientology. I don't know.
Oh, yes. My name is Earl.
Yeah. So how you been?
Great. Just very, very busy.
Yeah.
Just comedy and life and.
You've been doing the rounds. You were just in Tulsa last night, or what was the last show you did?
Oh, so I was at the Loony Bin Wednesday with Jesse Payton doing a show called Couples Therapy.
Nice.
And it's where every comic will talk about relationship issues.
That's every comic.
That's our entire set. And then we bring, so what he does is he has the audience ask questions, and then we act like couples therapists, and we actually brought a couple on stage and answered their questions. And it was amazing. It was a lot of fun. So if you ever see couples therapy in your town, check it out, because it's an interactive show.
Nice.
And which makes it a lot of fun.
And who was behind it?
Jesse Payton.
Jesse Payton. Shout out
Yes.
Jesse Payton. That sounds like a cool
Follow
concept.
Jesse Payton. He's amazing. And we had Adam Bush on it.
Nice.
And her name was Angela Walker from Dallas. And
Very
she
nice.
was amazing. So it was an amazing show.
Nice.
Yeah.
And shout out Loony Bin. They're a great place in Tulsa. I just there a couple weeks ago, and we just had Adam Bush here on the podcast like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like, Adam's a great guy. Yeah, that sounds like a great concept.
Yeah.
How long have they been doing that? Is that one of the first ones? Or?
No. It's a series.
Okay.
He said he's done probably, I think, a couple hundred of them.
Oh, wow.
In fact, they just did couples therapy last night at the Improv, I think in Dallas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's something he does nationwide.
That sounds like a great concept.
It is a great concept.
That's
and
fun.
we had so much fun. The audience loved it. It was just a great show. One of the
Nice.
funnest shows I've ever taken part of.
Nice.
Because usually we deter or don't want the audience interjecting, and the fact that the audience was allowed to interject and we were able to interact with each other.
Yeah.
It was so cool. It was so much fun.
It's a completely different atmosphere.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. And I work better almost off the cuff than I do with scripted comedy. So it was very easy for me to just fire off shitty things to say to people.
It almost like brings that wall down, doesn't it? Like,
Yes.
You're a little bit more comfortable just because it's just that kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, it was just very relaxed. Everyone was part of the show. We all knew it going into it that it was going to be an interactive show, so no one got upset or anything. It was just fun. It was just a great time.
Nice.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing comedy in the scene?
Well, I've been doing comedy for 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I like to say 4 because after COVID, I basically had to, like we all did, I basically had to start over.
Yeah.
Because so much of what I had done and worked on was just gone.
Yeah.
You know, relationships I'd built up, rooms I was in, clubs I was in, all gone. It just wiped it out.
Theories about vaccines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just.
I mean, it was like everything just imploded.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had basically 1 or 2 clubs and then I had to start all over again. So
Yeah.
I like to say 4 years, really.
Well, I mean, I've talked to, I'm sure you've met Zach Amon. And
I love Zach.
Zach's a great guy.
Yeah.
I talked to him a little bit because, like, when I had him on here, I talked about how he had a similar thing where, like, there was that break because of COVID, and he was even doing, like, shows on his front porch and stuff like that during COVID.
Yeah.
And we talked about how post-COVID, you had all these comics that were kind of pre-COVID and they were trapped a little bit.
Yes.
And then you had all this new launch of people, this new crop, me coming back and stuff like that. And you got to see this mesh or like people just kind of gelling together. And I don't know, it kind of made the Tulsa scene a lot. I'm sure it happened everywhere, but Tulsa specifically, I saw just this weird breeding ground of ideas and just kind of different types of doing comedy and just different things. And it's kind of interesting to me seeing these different ideas and stuff like that. I don't know where I'm going on.
Well, COVID changed the landscape of everything, because I remember the first show I came back and did jokes, and it wasn't just me, but jokes I did and jokes other comics were doing all of a sudden weren't working. And people were just weirded out. You had people that had lost their jobs, lost their businesses, they lost relatives. It was scary. It was weird.
Yeah.
It was really weird. I mean, that was a weird time.
Yeah.
And so when people came back into the clubs or at shows, they were still not quite, they were there, but they weren't quite there.
They weren't comfortable yet.
It was just weird.
Yeah.
And so it took even a while for it to start to feel fun again, even after it came back. So it's just been a work in progress to get it back. And I feel like now it's back to where it was.
Yeah.
Everyone, audiences come out, they're there to have fun. Where for a couple years, they weren't, I don't know why they were there, because they weren't really having
It's like they're
fun.
testing the waters, seeing if it's okay again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course we had, the George Floyd, we had all of that at one time. We had a presidential election. We had everything at once.
Yeah.
And it just changed so much for so many people.
And then there's also that so much crop of information that kind of happened at one time that if you do jokes about it, it's like we've heard that. Like it's almost, it's like we kind of want to move on from that section of time almost.
Well, people didn't like COVID jokes because they didn't want to be reminded. They wanted to forget it. And so those didn't work. Obviously sometimes racial jokes work if they're done well. Those didn't work anymore. Political jokes didn't work. Just it was just completely
it's taken a long time for me to be able to do George Floyd jokes now. It's come full circle.
Yeah. I
actually do them, but
I don't do them. But I'm saying, if you were to make jokes about different races. Before COVID, it would work, whereas after, no one was laughing.
Yeah.
And it just changed so much.
Keep in mind, I'm just doing tongue-in-cheek shit. I'm just bullshitting.
I was like, please don't make me comment about that. Because I have seen people do George Floyd jokes, and they do not go over well at all.
Yeah.
At all. As we know from David Lucas. Yeah. Where he had someone walk out on his show.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But then there's also the thing too, again, we're not getting philosophical on this, but it's how much in 2024 can you be canceled anymore? Almost. It's he's still selling tickets, he's still doing fine on his shows and stuff like that. David Lucas, in my opinion, he's still going. I mean, he had a little bit of hurt, but he's still selling.
Yeah.
He's still out there. It's not the level, I don't want to say Chris D'Elia, but even Chris D'Elia is still doing shows and stuff after the shit that he did.
Well, Chad Daniels said that you don't really get canceled, you just find a new fan base.
Yeah.
So you just shift over to a new group of fans.
Yeah.
So he said no one truly gets canceled unless you do something really egregious, and then you're canceled.
Well, I mean,
when what's his name? Kramer.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Michael Richards.
Michael Richards.
When he did what he did, of course, canceled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, just wasn't he ranting on a black dude, it was a heckler or something like that?
The guy was talking or heckling, and he just lost his temper and went out and called him, of course, that, and that was the end of his career.
Because I remember, Ralphie May. Ralphie May did a 2-hour comedy boot camp back in the day.
I watched it.
It's very good.
I watched it it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I watched every bit of that.
I highly recommend people, if you never watched it, take a look at it. It's very insightful. But he talks about how he said the N-word a couple times, and he got away with it versus Michael Richards. I don't know if it was on that one, but on a different one. But everybody in the crowd, I think, can tell intent and tone. Not to say the N-word is something that's flying.
We're not advocating for it. We're just talking about, because it does come up all the time in comedy, and I find it very cringe.
Me too.
I don't like it. I don't like to be the joke police or the word police.
Yeah.
But I just think it's in poor taste, and it's not funny.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those things that's you're trying too hard to be edgy and out there, and you're taking something that's very demeaning to people, and it's just not funny.
It's not your word. It's not your right to rule. Just move on.
No, I mean, it's like what is that? The apple in the Bible? It's the forbidden fruit.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, you can't have that one apple. Well, you can't say that one word.
Yeah.
There's millions of words. You can just say something else.
Yeah.
It's just stupid that people try to appear so edgy by saying a word that's so demeaning to so many people.
Yeah.
And then they always say, well, they say it. Well, that's because that's their word.
Yeah. The only clever take I ever saw on this was rapper and comedian or whatever you want to call him, Little Dicky. He has a show on FX, and he's a white rapper. He does a lot of comedy rap and stuff like that. But he has a song called The Antagonist, where he talks about how in rap they use that word as the antagonist. If you listen to it, like how they write,
Yeah.
and when you're a white dude and you can't use that word, you got to be a lot more creative. And he has a whole song about it, and I'm like, that's kind of insightful. Like the way he spun it and actually like just kind of puts it out in his song. It's kind of breaking it down, like why they use it, how they use it, and like why I can't use it, and how I have to be more original. And it's very insightful. I kind of like that.
I think it's like a lot of words. Like I was just telling someone that was running jokes past me that likes to use a lot of vulgarity. I'm like, vulgarity is just lazy. And it's not really a substitute for witty or clever. You're just being lazy.
Yeah.
Do better. Like, if you're going to say a certain word 5 times and it's just vulgar, I mean, you're just being gross.
And it's also like the law of diminishing returns. It's like there's no buildup or anything like that. Like, I've seen people use it as a punchline or something like that too. And it's like, I don't know. I think everything's wrestling to me is like pro wrestling, where you want to build up to stuff. You want to, build up to a really good move or something like that. And if you do it too much, or if you do just throw stuff out there, rapid fire, it's not going to land. The audience is going to appreciate it as much. There's a lot that goes into what we do.
It's like seasoning.
Yeah.
A little sprinkle of it here and there, kind of livens things up.
Yeah.
But when it's just, there's no context or witty, or there's no reason point, you're just saying bad words.
Yeah.
To me, it's just not funny. It's just you're up there saying weird shit.
Just a pure shaker of MSG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like you can do better.
Yeah.
It's just lazy. It's lazy.
So how would you describe your comedy? So if they haven't seen you on stage?
I'm very sarcastic. Some people I'm very bad about describing myself or bragging on myself. I hate it. I had to have someone else write my bio because I was like, I can't. I was like, I can't. And so people say witty. I've had comics I've worked with that have said I'm very smart. Like my jokes are very smart, and I talk a lot about a little bit of everything because I don't like comics that focus in on one topic. Like if you have let's just say there's comics out there, and I'm just using this as an example. I've seen a lot of comics who maybe are overweight. Yeah. And for 30 minutes, you're hearing about their weight.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, come on. That's so lazy.
Yeah.
Isn't there anything else in your life going on?
That was another tip from Ralphie made from that thing. I don't want to just be the fat comic. This episode of Unloading Meat is not brought to you by your favorite mobile banking app, such as Cash App. Man, I love using Cash App, especially when I'm doing things other than buying drugs. Cash App.
So I talk about pop culture, things going on, children, relationships, being a single mom, being a teenage mom, living in a small town. These are things that everyone can relate to.
Yeah.
They're like connectors. And that's the key, is to connect with your audience. A lot of times comics will talk about things that the audience just doesn't understand. So it's not that you're not funny. You're just talking about things that these people can't relate to or don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to know your audience and know where to go with it.
Agreed. There's time and place for everything, but building that connection, I think, is crucial.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Just everything about that. If you can get them to hang on your words and actually, we're in the entertain or the business of attention. Mm-hmm. I honestly feel it's like we have to keep their attention, we have to keep their focus, and especially in this day and age where everybody has short attention spans, that's a lot harder.
Yes.
Case in, I always bring up this point. You remember the movie Armageddon? Bruce Willis.
I watched it when it was in the theaters one time. So the only thing I remember is that stupid Aerosmith song. I hate that song.
Well, everybody brings up that song. If you ever pull up any scene from Armageddon and then hit the mute button.
Yes.
Watch how many fucking jump cuts there are. I'm sorry for swearing, but how many cuts there are of just angles. There's 20 cuts in a 1 minute section, just to keep everybody's attention. It's just flashing. And then ever since that movie, you kind of saw all these other movies adapt to that. And it was basically to help fight attention spans. Michael Bay actually said that out loud whenever he was filming Armageddon. And then it kind of just created this new wave. And it's like, oh, well, that's kind of how everything is now.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a club that I've done shows at, and they require that you put your phone in a locked bag.
Nice.
And these people, when they realize they're going to have to put their phone in a locked bag and they're not going to have it for it's only an hour and a half.
Yeah.
They act like they turn into like crack addicts. Like
Yeah.
they're having withdrawals and they're like, I need my phone. And
Yeah.
they're like, I have to have my phone. And because just sitting and paying attention to something without the distraction of the phone,
Yeah.
it's just like, it just makes them crazy.
Not only that, but it's basically these are basically really expensive fidget spinners.
Yes.
Like they're just fidget toys for adults, basically, and for preteens and teens. I mean,
Yeah.
how many parents are just like, here, take my phone?
For sure. I mean, I will tell you, like, so every year I do this thing where in October I like to go to the beach by myself to decompress. A lot of people think it's weird to go by yourself, but I'm like, it's not, because I like to just lay on the beach. Now, if I was going to do activities, I wouldn't go by myself, but I'm just literally sitting on the beach. I'm decompressing. And I don't take my phone with me to the beach. I leave it in my hotel room. And you'd be amazed. Like I'll be sitting there and I'll just reach for my phone like 100 times. It's just muscle memory. And I'm like, I am so like ashamed of myself that this is what I do. And it's like withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah.
And your mind is like going, what's going on? What's going on? Like who's texting me? Like it's just like going crazy. And then by the end of the week, and I've weaned myself off my phone, I feel more relaxed. I'm more present. I can remember what I did when I was there. I can read a book. I mean, sometimes it takes me like a while to read a book because I'm wanting to flip to something else already. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same. Like, I still to this day, like, I can watch maybe an episode of a show. Like, the new Fallout show just dropped all 8 episodes. It's a really good show, but they dropped all 8 at once. I can watch one, and then I got to take a break and do something else. I can't sit down and binge watch 8 episodes in a row. I'm just not that person.
I can't. You know what I like? A friend of mine just turned me on to I Think You Should Leave.
I haven't heard of that one.
On Netflix with I think his name is Tim Robinson. I don't know. And anyways, each episode is 17 minutes.
Oh,
perfect.
There we go.
I can watch an episode or two and it's 17 minutes or less. And his skits are very, very short. I like that he's not like overindulgent. The skit just kind of ends. And I'm like, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
It's like there was that one streaming service that only lasted like 8 months, then COVID happened. I can't remember what it was, but it like had like 15-minute shows, but you could only watch it on your phone. Like it had like all these different things. Like they brought back Reno 911. They brought back a whole bunch of all these other things, and then it bombed so hard because people were like, well, I just want to watch it on my TV. Like I don't want to watch it on my phone. Like their whole market was like, well, if you're on the subway or you're on the train or you're on the go and you want to watch a show real quick, but you don't have a lot of time, try our app. It's 15-minute shows. But it didn't last very long.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened and everybody's trapped and like, well, I'm not on the train. I'm not on the subway. Can I just watch it on my TV? So eventually Roku just bought them. So now they have all their shows and stuff like that too. But like, it was a cool idea for a second, but it was like, it wasn't properly for, fit. Like if you would have just let us have it on YouTube or have it on a big screen, I think it would have been more profitable. But yeah, it was a weird niche. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it was a weird.
I'll have to Google that. The other thing is like when I watch movies now, I start Googling the actors, the actresses, where do I know them? And then like I'm Googling the whole history of these people's like what do you call it? Their credits or whatever.
Yeah.
And then 30 minutes has gone by. Then I have to rewind the movie. And I'm like, why can't I just sit and watch a movie? I don't need to know how many times this person has been married or what their whole disc or filmography is. That's the word.
Prime's the worst one about that because they have a thing called X-ray where you just hit up on the remote and it tells you everybody in that scene, the exact scene and the song. And I'm like, this is addictive. Yes.
And so now when I go to the theater, first of all, I want subtitles. I'm like,
give me the bouncing ball.
I need everything has to have subtitles now. I mean, I can hear obviously, but I need subtitles and I need to be able to know where do I know this person from or who
subtitles on Saltburn. Ugh.
Oh man, Saltburn was amazing. Amazing.
I mean, after I cleaned up, I did have a tweet yesterday, and I kind of want to make it to a bit. I was like, I was just going through the radio, and like Diddy's song "I'll Be Missing You" from about Biggie Smalls came on. And I was like, is that his version of Saltburn?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you remember that like they sampled the song "I'll Be Missing You" from The Police, which is about stalking. And you're like, wow, Diddy's accusations kind of are coming into a new light with that song.
Well, someone made a really good point, I think on TikTok, that Diddy has made money longer on Biggie than Biggie was ever alive.
Yeah.
It's been like almost 30 years, I think, and Biggie was alive for 24, 25. And I'm like, that's a really good point.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I like to go down the rabbit holes. I don't necessarily believe conspiracy theories,
Yeah.
but I certainly love to go down the rabbit holes. And sometimes I'm like, this is crazy. Then sometimes I'm like, they got a point.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to hear the various takes on different things.
It's like I watched the People versus O.J. Simpson on FX. Like that was a fantastic show a couple years ago. They just did a recreation of the O.J. Simpson trial.
I saw that. Yeah,
it's a great show.
Yes,
fantastic performances. But yeah, it was kind of enlightening to see both sides and how he got away with it. And like, I know it's made for TV. It's a little bit embellished
for sure.
But it was also enlightening to see like the racial tensions and like the different sides, like how the jury found that, and like basically everything behind the scenes that wasn't just the actual court case.
Yeah, I watched a movie or maybe a series, I think on HBO. There's so many apps now that when people are like, "Where'd you watch that?" I'm like, "I don't have like 8 apps." I don't remember. I think it was about his name is Charles Stewart, a guy in Boston in I think the early 90s who killed his pregnant wife, and he blamed it on a black guy, of course.
Oh wow.
And so the series you think is going to be about
Bruh.
it's going to be about this guy's killing his wife, but also I didn't know this at the time. Boston had really strained racial tensions. And I didn't know that. And so it was very, very interesting to learn the history of Boston, the racial tensions, all of the things that had gone on that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And the things that led up to this guy blaming a black man and the police just automatically assuming and taking his word for it that sure it was. So it's kind of like was OJ.
Yeah.
That there was all these racial tensions, things going on, things with the police.
Yeah.
The police were corrupt and targeting, obviously, African Americans. And then came along and here's a black man who killed a white woman. Then there was a white guy in Boston who blamed it on a black man, just like that Susan Smith who killed her children and blamed it on a black guy.
Yeah.
And everyone automatically believed her. So I like to hear the backstories of how they got to that point in the first place, more than just the actual crime.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot, like you just pointed out, there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
As to how they got to that point.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You can kind of go down that wormhole, rabbit hole, just like everything that kind of caused that decision or caused that moment in time.
I can actually remember that O.J. Simpson was such a big deal because this is before the internet.
Yeah.
This was like you turned on your TV and you watched it. I can still remember when the O.J. verdict came in. I know where I was at. It's not there anymore, but that. I think it's now a Homeland, right? When you come into town.
Oh, yeah.
By McAllister's. Is that a Homeland now?
Yeah.
At the time it was in Albertson.
Yeah.
And I was renting a VHS tape.
In the very front?
In the very front.
Yep.
I was renting a video and the TVs came on and everything stopped. Like literally, like if they were checking out groceries, they stopped. Everyone stopped and watched that. And I remember when they said not guilty, people screaming. Like literally, like that bastard, he got away with it. And oh my God. And there was some woman started crying and it was crazy. But that trial had our attention.
Yeah.
Like it just gripped us because there wasn't the internet. There wasn't 100 channels.
Yeah.
That was and everyone watched it.
That was our pop culture.
That was our mini series,
Like the closest thing to that. I mean, it's funny that I brought up the TV show on FX because like the next season they did, or 2 seasons after that, they did the Monica Lewinsky trial or scandal.
Yeah, yeah.
And like all the backstory on that, and like Linda Tripp and everything that went through that, and like how Monica got screwed over so hard. That poor girl.
She did.
Man, it's very enlightening. Like that show is very good. I would really recommend watching that if you haven't watched that. It's really good.
Yeah, because I don't think it was fair that she's a young girl and she's being persuaded by the most powerful man on the earth, and her life got destroyed. And to this day, we still revere Clinton.
Yeah.
But she said that she couldn't even date or get married because she goes, "You're bringing home Monica Lewinsky."
Yeah.
And she's like, "My life got destroyed."
Yeah, and Linda Tripp basically did it.
Mm-hmm.
Linda Tripp did everything. We're secretly recording her for that whole year or whatever.
Yep.
And was her best friend apparently, and just backstabbing her the whole time.
But also, who takes a cum-stained dress home and just saves it? Like, that's weird.
Just put that down. Shh.
I mean, I don't do it anymore.
Yeah. Souvenirs.
Yeah. Like
Now they're just on the figure. Don't use a black light in here.
No. Be like the FBI database. There's 63 types of semen in here.
I mean, I do look like I have the body type for that, but 63, that's low.
Those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
All right. Well, I'm going to make sure to go home and wash my clothes immediately.
Yeah, still not clean. Not clean. Yes, I forgot halfway through we had a soundboard.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, there is a store that I love at Woodland Hills Mall called Iconic Art.
Okay.
Have you ever been there?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so they've got obviously art of all different kinds. They've got
Don't say.
They've got, what are those, Funkos?
Yeah.
Okay, they've got those. They've got sports memorabilia. I love going in there. I've bought so much from them. But they have these Funkos and they're like 75% off.
Oh, nice.
So they're like $3.75 each. And one of my favorite all-time movies is Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which is an older movie with Joan Crawford and Bette Davis.
Okay.
And that's the one. Do you remember the series Susan Sarandon and Jessica Lange were in, depicting those two?
No, I don't.
Okay, I
Off the
can't
top of my
remember.
head.
I cannot remember what the name of that series was, but it was a great series. But anyways, I just was killing time one day, go in there, this Iconic Art, and I see these Funkos of the two lead characters from that. It's an old movie. It's like
Yeah.
from the 50s or the 60s. And I went and I bought them, and he goes, "You're the first person to buy these." He goes, "They've been sitting there forever." And I was like, "Well, they were meant for me then, I guess."
Nostalgia hits sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
I did a podcast called Two Idiots One podcast last week.
Yeah.
And the whole subject was about nostalgia, and basically how we talked about how, like, everything now is just ran on nostalgia. Like, the entertainment is just a nostalgia factory. You watch a trailer from Deadpool and Wolverine just put out a trailer this morning, and every time you watch a movie trailer now, within 20 seconds, here comes a 70s or 80s song, and it was Like a Prayer from Madonna.
Like Stranger Things to me was just 80s nostalgia
Yep,
porn.
that's all it
was. And I feel like if that was set in today's world, it wouldn't have hit quite as hard. But because it was in the 80s,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you're right.
Yeah, everything is kind of like, it's like the entertainment's kind of weaponized nostalgia. Like they use it for everything now. Every movie has to be tied to some kind of franchise or anything, because they're always managing risk. That's what production companies are doing now. There's like, risk management of like, how much profit is this going to make? Do we want to devote it to a brand new IP or something that has a tied-in following? And that's basically what they're doing with every single project now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it just kind of comes down to like, they can bank on nostalgia heavily and get that money, get that revenue.
Well, but the thing is like, I understand that, but I'm not going to go watch remakes of certain movies because they've ruined it.
Yeah.
Like the nostalgia is that movie.
Yeah.
Where if you try to recreate it in today's world, it's just not going to hit the same. You're probably going to piss me off.
Yeah. Well, I hate to see it. Like, I'm a big gamer. I'm a big video game guy. A lot of games are going to this idea of the white whale, so to speak. They do what they call games as a service, where you buy monthly, you spend money on them, like Fortnite, V-Bucks, and you got to buy stuff, buy skins.
Is that Roblox?
Roblox
okay.
has it too.
Okay.
A lot of games are going to that method where it's like, hey, it's free to play, but you can buy all this shit monthly.
Oh, like Candy Crush.
Yeah, just like that. And
I just really aged myself with that one. I'm single-handedly keeping Candy Crush.
That's why you had to put your phone down.
Yes, but that's what I do when I'm nervous before shows. I play a game like Candy Crush or something, and it helps tremendously. Okay, sorry.
That's all right. No, that's good.
But yeah. So like Candy Crush,
Yeah.
you know.
But no, like a lot of video games are going to that model where they just want to pump out as many microtransactions as they can, because they're banking on one or two quote unquote white whales or big whales that are rich, that have disposable income that'll just keep their game profitable because they're buying it by the thousands. So like a lot of games are waiting for those. Like, we don't care that the masses hate this game. There's a couple of thousand people that are keeping it afloat because they're buying everything, because they're just obsessed with buying everything.
Right.
And that's kind of where the whole gaming industry is going now. And I hate to see where movies are starting to go to that too. It's like, we don't care about original ideas or what people actually want. We're just going to push this thing out because the masses are going to at least buy it.
Right.
And that's kind of where we're at.
Well, I mean, like, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm like, well, I want to go see Ghostbusters because I've seen them all.
Yeah.
Not that I really like care to see it, but it's just another one to go see, which is why, like I go watch the Jurassic Parks and the Ghostbusters, but there's some movies you have to see on the big screen.
Yeah.
Like, what was that? The Top Gun sequel?
Yeah, that was fantastic.
That
in the
was
series.
amazing. And I saw it a couple times. I mean, my daughter saw it probably 4 or 5 times.
I think that movie saved theaters during COVID or post-COVID. Or like,
you know what it was? Because it was just a movie. There was no lesson. There was no agenda being pushed. There was nothing political.
it was escapism.
It was just a movie, which is what a movie is supposed to be. You're not supposed to be reminded of like today's world.
Well, not only that, but he took advantage of like just the behind the scenes of how they filmed it and stuff. Like even like the 3D theaters or like just even the regular theaters, they took advantage of the sound design. So like whenever he takes off in the jet, the sound comes from the back of the theater and hits you, and they have it to where it shoots forward with the jet. Like they have it to be very immersive. That's the way they shot that film, and
it was amazing.
Yeah,
it was amazing to watch that in 3D, IMAX, and all of that because you felt it.
Yeah,
it was exciting.
Yeah, and they made these experiences like they wanted you back. You put butts in the seats, and take a break from how fucked up the world is, kind of.
Yeah, and you forgot about it because they were just talking about the stupid story of him being a pilot.
I mean, Tom Cruise is proof that you can just not talk about Scientology and you still make a fortune. Just turn your brain off. Just watch this shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I want. I want escapism. I don't want to be reminded of like anything political or be taught a lesson. I just want to escape and watch like trash. Yeah. Which is like I'm a big like reality show whore, and because it's trash. Yeah. It's funny. There's no lesson. It's just people doing stupid things.
Yeah. I kind of separate the things that I watch into 3 categories. 1, wrestling, because obviously. 2 is stuff I have to pay attention to. Like really, I love clever writing. I love really good writing, like Better Call Saul, The Wire, Sopranos. Those all-time great shows. But then there's also stuff that's just like, I want to turn my brain off and I just want to have it on the background while I'm folding clothes, or I just want to like lay down and watch TV in bed. I can just turn my brain off and not really have to think so hard. Yeah. And there's that kind of stuff. And that's where I watch reality TV, or I watch like old sitcoms or something like that. Just stuff I don't have to really focus on too hard or really think too hard about.
Right. Like when I go to a concert and whoever the band or the singer starts talking about politics, I'm like, shut the fuck up. Yeah. Like, I'm here to get away from all that. I don't want a lesson. Yeah. I don't want, you preaching to us. Just shut up and sing, please. Yeah. Because that's what I'm here for, to have a good time. And if you're bringing in politics and all that, shit, I kind of lose interest. Like my kids growing up, when I was growing up, they're huge. They're still to this day huge WWE fans. Yeah. They still go and watch it. We used to go to all the meet and greets and stuff. And you're right. It's just fun because it's like a silly little soap opera with these silly little storylines. And there was nothing political or there's no lesson to learn. You're just following these stupid storylines that are wildly entertaining, and you get to have fun. Yeah. And they still watch to this day. They still go, and they talk about nostalgia. They say because it reminds them of when they were kids. Yep. And it was such a big deal because we'd go twice a year, one for Raw, one for SmackDown. And what an event that was, and how exciting it was. Yeah. And there's times we got to be on the floor and right behind them and getting to meet them.
And you see them in life, how big they are in person. Like the TV doesn't show how big these wrestlers are. They're massive.
In fact, one time, my daughter, when I think she was 3 or 4, we were in line to meet the Big Show. Nice. And
good pull.
Yeah. So we were. And my son went off with his friends, and I asked my daughter, I said, do you want to meet the Big Show? And yeah, you want to meet the Big Show. And then she got up there and she was so intimidated by how big he truly was. She ran off to the corner. And so I'd been standing in line like an hour and a half. And I was like, well, I'm not going to just leave. So like an asshole, I had to go up and ask for this autograph. Because my kid took off and was like hiding behind a sign.
You got the Big Show's autograph and you don't even care.
And I have that picture somewhere in my phone. And so I'm standing there, can I have your autograph? I'm like a 28-year-old woman, for God's sake. And he's like, okay. And I'm by myself. It looked really weird. And then I'm like, come on, kid. You know what I mean? You made me stand in line for an hour and a half to make me look stupid. But then I got his autograph or whatever. But his hands alone, I think, were probably bigger than my daughter's head at the time. I mean, massive.
So you should have popped him. You should have been like, hey, I really loved you in Waterboy.
I think this was before Waterboy. I'm pretty sure.
Captain Insano shows no mercy.
I'm pretty sure it was before then because she was so young. But yeah, we talk about that kind of stuff all the time when we met these wrestlers. Yeah. And they're all great guys. They're all so nice. Yeah. Which has got to be exhausting for them.
They stay outside. Like there's people like you go AEW, the company that I follow, the second company. They just had a show at BOK in February, and the amount of people that wait outside the exits until like midnight. Sign this.
And they'll sign it.
Yeah, and they're friendly and they're staying there the whole night. They're super grateful because they know if they do anything bad, that's gonna go on Twitter. Like it's just like, and not to say that that's why they do it, but like they're nice people. They're genuinely nice people. And yeah, I honestly say all the time that I try to model my stand-up comedy career in this the same way like a pro wrestler would when they're starting out. I see a lot of similarities between indie pro wrestlers and what we do. Like starting out, you're going show to show, mostly doing it for like a hot dog and a handshake, so to speak. You're trying to make those connections. You're not making a lot of money. Occasionally, you'll get some merch going. You'll get some stickers, something like that. You're trying to like go show to show, get your name going, until eventually you can get that big break.
Well, I tell people, because someone, a comic in my scene said, would you ever do shows for free? And I said, dude, when I started, I did shows for free. My very first show, I drove to Tulsa. There was no pay. And, you know, he told me there's no pay.
Yeah.
But I still drove up here, did the show for free. And there was someone there and he was like, hey, will you come do my show? It's a New Faces show.
Yeah.
There's no pay. He goes, but the manager of the Loony Bin will be there. There's other people that do shows that will be there, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, sure.
Yeah.
So I, you know, a month later, I drive up to Tulsa, do it again. And from that one show, I got booked for 7 shows.
There you go.
And it just started spawning because it's really about, at first, I mean, when people say exposure, at first you kind of pay, you know, you got to pay your dues.
Yep.
No one knows who you are.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're like an unknown, you're a risk. So
Yeah.
why should someone pay you?
Yeah.
Until they know that you're good to go.
Yeah.
And I did it.
Yeah.
I mean, I did shows for free for a long time just to network, meet other comics. And if I hadn't done those 2 shows, I don't think things would have gone as well for me, because that was my second show. And within those 2 shows, I got booked right then and there at the Loony Bin, which was like unheard of.
Yeah.
I got booked to go do shows in Joplin, and some of the comics who, I mean, they don't do comedy anymore. They're like, you already got an out-of-state show? And I'm like, yeah, the guys were there. They saw me. So, I mean...
Yes, who's in the crowd? Who are you performing for? You never know.
Well, I mean, that was the point of the show.
Yeah.
It's for this guy to come out and show fresh faces, and he invited all the bookers and everyone, and they showed up. And I was like, I don't care about pay. I'm more concerned with networking and getting myself out there and showing people who I am and what I can do.
Yeah.
And basically, it's been the free shows that have paid off the biggest.
Yeah.
Because those are the biggest connections that I made.
Hey guys, this episode is not brought to you by a mobile game like Best Fiends. You know, it's like Friends, but take out that R. What are they trying to say? The R's for like, is the R word? Is it an R word? Can we say R word? Can we hint at the word? Take out the R. Oh, Fiends, Friends. That's fucking retarded. Well, I always say like know your worth, but also leverage that versus the opportunity.
In the beginning, so I've talked about this before on a different podcast, but the last boyfriend I had, which was, we won't talk about how long ago that was.
Bruh.
I know, yeah, bruh. He was an actor, and he went to I can't think of the name of it, some acting school over in England.
Okay.
And they taught him and everyone there that when you're an actor, you don't say no to a job. You do not say no. You go to every audition, you go to every show, because you don't know who will see you. You don't know who you're going to meet. And those connections are the most important. And I applied that principle to comedy because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's still an art form. And so that's what I did. I was like, I'm saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose money, but I'm going to make friends. People are going to see me, and it paid off.
Yeah.
So when you're starting off, I know we all want to get paid. I know we all want sort of the rewards of it.
Yeah.
But that's not going to come for a
You gotta
while.
put in the legwork. You
got to pay your dues.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I know a lot of other people that did it, and you just got to do it. You can't you really can't expect much in the beginning, because this is the only art form where we practice in front of strangers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to do it. So, and stage time, like the more stage time you get, the better you get.
Yeah.
So put your ego and your pride aside and take the damn show.
It honestly feels like my parents, a lot of parents don't understand what we're doing. Sometimes they don't get their head wrapped around it because it's a different type of thing. You want to work for free for a long time and hopefully get something?
Yeah.
They don't get it. And I kind of told my dad, finally caught it, as I was like, you remember the movie like Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, where he's interning for a long time and he's homeless and shit like that? I was like, it's kind of like that. We're basically comedy interns.
Yeah.
We're doing it for free. We're trying to get there. We're trying to get that big break. We're trying to get, hey, if we do the work enough and we're ready for that opportunity, somebody might notice.
Well, it's learning on the job.
Yeah.
That's what I tell new comics. I said, you're learning on the job because we can't go to school for this.
Yeah.
You can read the books, you can watch the podcast, but until you're in front of an audience and you get that experience, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
And so, and I always like, when I'm doing, when I'm booking shows, I always try to include a new comic because there's only so much.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah, I just did a Saturday night. I had a new comic do a show that he out of his wheelhouse. He did great.
Nice.
And he learned some things. And I said, this is why I bring the new guys or gals along with me when I have the opportunity, because I want them to learn.
Yeah.
And there's only one way for them to learn is to do it.
Yeah.
And you know, the same way that I was given opportunity, I want nothing more than to give new comics that same opportunity.
Yeah.
Because that's how they're going to get better. And I want them to.
Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about, like, I try not to be a gatekeeper with the podcast or my shows or anything I do. I don't want to do that. I just want to help bring up people as much as I can while I'm helping doing my stuff. And
well, like, that's what the comics did for me. There are comics I barely knew that brought me up and were doing things for me. And I was like, why are you doing this? And it's just how it works.
Yeah.
We can't do comedy without other comics.
Yeah.
If you isolate yourself or you're an asshole, you're not going to be doing a whole bunch.
Well, like he won't mind me saying his name. I'll say it. Bailey Mickle is a newer comic in this area. And in January, I did my first Unloading Meat Presents show, and I put them out monthly on YouTube. And it was Zach Amon, it was Cepeda, him, and Rachel Rose. And he was the newest comic. And my thoughts were, he's the newest. I have 3 people that have been doing it for a while. If he does well by osmosis, he's hanging. And at least he's getting to rub shoulders with everybody else and kind of learn from them and see how they do it. And they're all on the same show. And like kind of like what you were saying, he's learning.
He's learning, yeah.
And he's getting his, he's a really good guy. He's a student of the game. He's taking notes. He's doing the work. So I'm like, okay, well, let's give him a spot, see what he can do.
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of want to book. I want to book new and old, and I want to book people that are doing the work and traditionally just not being an asshole.
Well, I will say this. If I see a newer comic not doing the work and being an asshole, no. But if I see someone who may not be as funny but is doing the work and is learning and is applying the things they're being told, I'm like, that's the person I'm going to help versus the person who may be funnier, but isn't acting like an asshole.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to help that.
Yeah.
I want the person that's actually trying and is learning.
Well, it's like I have no ego about what I do or anything. I'm still a very new baby comic. I built this and did all this mostly because I tried like 15 years ago, and long story short, I was banned from Loony Bin.
Oh no.
15 years ago, Loony Bin was the only comedy place in town, and I did 2 places. I was 20 years old. I was so happy. I was a kid that was collecting the Loony Bin cups. Like I was like, because you had to buy 1 drink minimum to actually go there at the time. And my second set up there, I did a joke, and it was like, Jesus was a carpenter. The bones of it was like, what if he got a splinter? And he was like, who the fuck made this? And the open mic host at the time says, hey, you're banned. They didn't like that joke. And so I was devastated. I just gave up. And I found out like 6 years later, it was just him. It wasn't the actual club. Loony Bin had no idea who I was.
That I was like going to say, that sounds very un-Loony Bin
Yes.
like. Very
so I just didn't do comedy for a long time, for almost 14 years. And then got divorced, stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this again. But when I did it, I was like, okay, I'm going to build something. I built the podcast studio, got the brand, got the thing, got this whole thing as a base to where like, okay, if I'm going to go back full time into comedy, I pay my house off, pay my car off. I was like, nobody can take this away from me, so to speak.
Right.
So I have a base to fall back on, and then I went back into comedy.
That's great.
And that's kind of what I've done. And just try to have no ego about it, but at least I have this mindset of like, okay, yeah, you can say whatever you want to me, but at least I have this. You know what I mean? Like I'm still building from something.
Well, we also got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And you're building, and that's all we can do.
And like, 2 months on the couch, I had Josh Wolf here, and he was giving me advice on how to do comedy and stuff like that. And I was like, that was so invaluable. And he was like, you're on the right track. And I was like, okay. If Josh Wolf and his son can be here in 2 months and say I'm on the right track, that makes me feel that I'm doing something right.
For sure. Because they're not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
They're not going to lie. They have no reason to lie to you.
Well, the way that he did it, he was like, he came in here and like they just needed a podcast studio. They were filming their podcast on the road and they needed one. And Zach Amon, who I'm always going to be grateful for, told them, Jared has the best podcast studio in Tulsa. You should go hit him up. And he vouched for me, and that allowed them to come here and do my show. And I got to produce an episode for them for their podcast. But those like 2 hours they were here was just so invaluable. Get to rub shoulders with them, get to bounce ideas off of them. And Josh Wolf just flat out told me, he goes, I didn't know there was a comedy scene in Tulsa. I was like, yeah, there's not really a big one. It's growing, but he's like, I've been in comedy for a while. I had no idea Tulsa had a scene. And that was eye opening to me of like, okay, if Josh Wolf says there's no scene here, like we got to do something to kind of put a spotlight on this. So that's where like the podcast, my live shows I'm putting on YouTube, everything I'm doing with my flyer work and graphic design, I'm just trying to help spotlight Tulsa as much as possible without an ego.
Yeah.
Just so we can kind of change that perception a little bit is what I'm trying to do in the long run.
Yeah. And you've got 2 great clubs in Tulsa. The Loony Bin Tulsa has completely changed. It's really taken off. And then, of course, you've got Bricktown, which is bringing in the big dogs. So you guys really, should be on the map.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And we don't talk about Tulsa Comedy Club.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
It's a Latin dance club that took the name.
Okay. But yeah, so Tulsa's got a great scene. Tulsa really has a great scene because you guys always have a lot of showcases, a lot of open mics.
Yeah. And the open mic scenes here is pretty good. Like Hunt Club's doing great, Starlight. There's some good established mics that are doing strong. Cellar Dweller.
Yeah.
That have been going for
a long time.
A long time.
Yeah, a long time. Yeah, you guys have a lot going on.
Yeah.
So.
And it's just like, and OKC does too. And I know Stillwater, I had a guy on here yesterday from T&D Entertainment who's trying to put out
Tyler?
stuff. Yeah, Tyler.
I love Tyler. Tyler's a great guy.
Yeah, I had him on here yesterday.
I've done shows with Tyler, and he's really doing great things.
Yeah.
And he's really bringing a spotlight to comedy in Stillwater.
Uncle Laser.
Uncle Laser, yeah.
Yeah, he hung out with Uncle Laser all last 2 nights ago, got drunk, and then he came here and did the podcast yesterday.
Yeah.
And then he was like, can I bring my 2 5-year-olds? Because I couldn't find a sitter. So like they hung out with my 7-year-old and they just had like a play day.
Say play with all the toys.
That's why if you notice in the bathroom, like all of her bedding's done because they had a Sprite fight.
What's a Sprite fight?
Where they all had Sprite and it went all over the room.
Oh no.
Yeah, we found that out after the podcast. And I was like, this is gonna be fun to clean up.
I do not miss having kids.
Yeah.
I'm unloading the meat. I'm loading the meat. I'm unloading the meat. I'm loading the meat. I'm unloading the meat. I'm loading the meat. I'm unloading the meat. I don't even know what it means, what it is, what it is, what it is, what it is, what it is. Hey.
And we're back with the great Julie Drake. We totally weren't just, checking our phones or anything because we're not obsessed or, not
having withdrawals. We're having withdrawals. We needed our dosage.
Yeah, need my dopamine from my Google Pixel 6.
Yes.
But Julie, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This is fun. I love your collection here.
Thank you. Like I said
amazing.
off camera, it's called Divorce.
It's amazing. Well, Divorce looks good.
Thanks. $24.99 a piece. No.
Awesome.
No, Julie, thank you for coming. I love your outfit. I love like everything about you, your vibe. We haven't really talked in very much, but I'm really enjoying this. This has been a great conversation.
It's really hard to get to know people from Facebook.
Yeah.
Because I see your stuff, but until you actually meet someone, you're like, okay, that was way better than just seeing posts because it's so you can't really like exchange energy over the internet. So
that's the way I feel like this. I like having a good conversation because even if we met at like an open mic or something, how much conversation can I get to know from you like in a 5-minute at a bar?
Not much.
Because usually at a bar or something like that, I'm smoking or I'm having a beer and I'm just like, leave me alone. I'm thinking about my set. I'm thinking about my set. I'm thinking about my set.
Yeah, I'm really like, I'm an introvert anyways.
Yeah.
So I'm not the most talkative person. And when I'm like, especially at a show, I'm really in my head.
Yeah.
And like, I'm watching the audience, paying attention to who's there. And so a lot of times comics are like, I think they take my quietness and my in-headness for being like a bitch or snotty. No, I'm just like I'm
focused.
I'm focused.
Yeah.
That's all. And I don't mean to be that way. I hate that it comes across that way, but I've learned I learned a long, long time ago, watch the show.
Yeah.
Watch what happens before you. So I can adapt and play off things.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, we're there for the audience and I want them to have a good show because if we have a good show, they're going to come back.
Yeah.
Where if we don't have a good show, they're probably not going to come back or they're not going to come back for a long time.
Well, the way I look at it is everybody's stuff before you is just waiting for a callback.
Well, it's also
possibly. I mean, the audience would respond to it possibly.
Or you're like, well, they really didn't like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take that off the table.
Yeah.
Or they did like that. Or there's someone in the crowd that has something going on. Then you can play off of that and you can have fun. But actually, I'll tell you a quick story before I get out of here.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Bernie Mac came out and said, I ain't scared of you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll tell you the story behind that. I know a comic that was there. So they were having a showcase and this comic did a joke and basically got booed.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The comic that was on after him was in the green room, wasn't paying attention to the show, came out and pretty much did the exact same joke and got booed again, except horribly.
Yeah.
And so then Bernie Mac came out and that's why he said, I ain't scared of you, because he'd seen 2 people before him bomb and get booed. And so that comic was like, that's why you watch the comic in particular going up ahead of you.
Yeah.
Because you can see their errors, see like what hits, what doesn't hit, and you can play off of that and you can adapt to it. So that's the story behind that.
Nice.
So,
That's a great tip. That's just a great thing to have. Because like also that's what this is. It's also a learning thing. It's like, yeah, we have a fun chat here. It's comics and entertainers. But I also want people to be able to get something from this if they're trying to learn how to do better in stand up and stuff too.
And that's my thing. Like my favorite thing is to like, because I've learned some really, really good comics. I was very, very lucky when I started at the Oklahoma City Loony Bin, because the comics that were there would stay in the back and they'd watch you. And they'd watch the open mic, and then, or you could tell them or ask them, hey, are you going to watch the mic?
Yeah.
And they'd give you feedback. And these are from the road dogs, people doing it 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they really directed me on the right path. So I've learned from great comics because that's who you learn from.
Yeah.
And so I like to try to pass what I've learned down to new comics. They're not always receptive.
Yeah.
They don't like it.
The unsolicited advice they try to say.
They try to say I'm criticizing them, or
Yeah.
I'm trying to mom them, or I'm just being a bitch. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm genuinely like, I see something in you. You're funny, but you're doing this wrong. And I'm just trying to teach you to not do it wrong so that you can get better. And it's not always received like that. I know how it comes off unsolicited advice. None of us like it, but I'm just trying to help. Because that's the only way we learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the hard part about giving advice to comics. I know we got to end soon. It's like, at the end of the day, we all know that 90% of them have mommy issues.
I do. I do.
Julie, thank you so much for coming. Where can everybody find the great Julie Drake if they want to book you or
please
follow
quit
you?
calling me the great. Okay. I am at Julie, like my Instagram is Julie Comedy.
Okay.
And my TikTok is Julie Comedy and then the number 1.
Ooh.
Just the
fancy.
number 1. Yeah. And then of course, Facebook, Julie Drake. I have a comedy page, and then of course my personal page where you can follow me on there too.
Nice.
So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming all the way to Bartlesville.
Yeah.
And this is a great chat, and I think it's the start of a good friendship.
Yep. Me too.
Guys, this has been Julie Drake. I am Jared Ralphie Allen. This has been Unloading Meat. Peace.
Unloading the meat. 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 I don't even know what it means, but it is what it is. What it is.
Bye. Have a great time.